To understand the Epstein machinery, you have to look directly at the engine, Ghislaine Maxwell. She wasn't just a bystander or a girlfriend. The courts found she was the essential architect of the abuse. Born into immense wealth as the daughter of media tycoon Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine used her high society status to sanitize Epstein's image. She was the trusted face that made victims feel safe. Prosecutors proved that she operated a calculated grooming pipeline. She would recruit young, often vulnerable girls, take them shopping, and normalize sexual acts under the guise of massage training. Without her, Epstein's access to victims would have been severely limited. The turning point came in July 2020 when the FBI arrested her in New Hampshire. Unlike Epstein, she faced a jury. The trial revealed a catalog of flight logs and testimony from 4 primary accusers. In December 2021, she was convicted on 5 of 6 counts, including the sex trafficking of a minor. She was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. Her case is historic because it dismantled the myth that women cannot be primary predators. She didn't just enable the system, she ran it. Today, she sits in a low-security prison in Florida, the highest-ranking figure to be held accountable for this decades-long operation. Next, we have the most high-profile name on the entire list, Prince Andrew, the Duke of York. This isn't just a celebrity scandal. It is arguably the biggest fall from grace in the modern history of the British monarchy. Andrew's value to Epstein was simple. He was the ultimate trophy. Having the Queen's son as a friend gave Epstein untouchable global credibility. But that friendship came at a devastating cost. Virginia Giuffre alleged she was trafficked to Andrew on 3 separate occasions in London, New York, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. The infamous photo of Andrew with his arm around a 17-year-old Giuffre became the defining image of the scandal. The situation exploded in 2019 following his disastrous BBC Newsnight interview. His denials, claiming he couldn't sweat due to a medical condition and had never met Giuffre, were widely ridiculed and destroyed his public credibility overnight. The impact was swift and brutal. In early 2022, facing a civil sexual assault lawsuit, Andrew was stripped of his military titles and his HRH styling. He settled the lawsuit out of court for an estimated £12 million, though he admitted no liability. While he avoided a criminal trial, the court of public opinion has rendered a life sentence, total exile from public life. When we talk about the normalization of Jeffrey Epstein, no name carries more weight than former President Clinton. His association gave Epstein a level of global legitimacy that money alone couldn't buy. The core evidence here lies in the flight logs. Official records confirm that Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet, the Lolita Express, at least 26 times. While Clinton's team insists these were humanitarian trips for his foundation in Africa, the sheer frequency raises uncomfortable questions. In the 2024 unsealed documents, the picture got darker. One witness, Johanna Schoberg, testified that Epstein told her Clinton likes them young, referring to girls. However, we have to look at the legal reality. Clinton has vehemently denied ever visiting Epstein's private island, Little St. James, and Secret Service logs from the time have not contradicted that claim. He has not been accused of specific sexual acts in the depositions, nor has he been criminally charged. But the reputational damage is permanent. Clinton has tried to distance himself, claiming he knew nothing of the crimes, but the optics of a former president frequently traveling with a known sex offender are impossible to erase. It remains a dark stain on his post-presidency legacy, proving just how high up Epstein's influence really reached. Then there is Donald Trump. His connection to Epstein was different. It wasn't about philanthropy. It was about the Palm Beach social circuit. In the 90s and early 2000s, they were neighbors and moved in the same wealthy circles. The smoking gun for their relationship is a 2002 interview where Trump called Epstein a terrific guy and noted he liked beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Flight logs show Trump flew on Epstein's plane multiple times, specifically between Palm Beach and New York, though far less frequently than Clinton. However, the narrative shifts when we look at the end of their relationship. They reportedly fell out years before Epstein's arrest, allegedly over a real estate dispute, and Trump eventually banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago. Crucially, the 2024 unsealed documents provided a specific defense for Trump. The same witness who implicated others, Johanna Schoberg, testified that while she met Trump with Epstein, she never gave him a massage and no sexual misconduct occurred. So, while Trump's early social praise for Epstein is undeniable, current evidence suggests he was a social acquaintance rather than an active participant in the trafficking ring. It's a complex relationship of proximity, but legally he remains clear of the core accusations. Jean-Luc Brunel. If Ghislaine Maxwell was the manager of this operation, Jean-Luc Brunel was the headhunter. You cannot talk about the supply of victims without talking about him. Brunel was a massive figure in the fashion industry, the founder of MC2 Model Management. His role was terrifyingly simple. He used the promise of a modeling career to lure young girls into Epstein's trap. Prosecutors and survivors described him as a primary pipeline. He would scout girls from modest backgrounds, promising them fame and fortune in the United States, only to deliver them directly to Epstein. Virginia Giuffre explicitly stated that Brunel boasted about sleeping with over 1,000 women. For years, he operated in plain sight, protected by his status in the fashion world, but the law finally caught up. In December 2020, French authorities arrested him at Charles de Gaulle Airport as he tried to board a plane to Senegal. He was indicted on charges of rape and trafficking of minors. However, justice was never served in a courtroom. In February 2022, while awaiting trial in a Paris prison, Brunel was found hanging in his cell. His death was ruled a suicide. It was a massive blow to the victims, as he took decades of secrets and names to the grave with him, closing one of the most critical chapters of the investigation. Now we have to follow the money, and all roads lead to Leslie Wexner. He is the billionaire founder of L Brands, the man behind Victoria's Secret and Bath & Body Works. Without Wexner, Jeffrey Epstein likely never becomes a multimillionaire. The relationship here is baffling. In the 90s, Wexner gave Epstein full power of attorney over his entire financial life. We are talking about unrestricted access to billions of dollars. This allowed Epstein to buy his mansion in New York, his planes, and his private island. Epstein wasn't a financial genius on his own. He was spending Wexner's money. Wexner claims he was conned. He severed ties in 2007, accusing Epstein of misappropriating vast sums of money. But the question remains, how does a titan of industry let a math teacher take control of his fortune for nearly 2 decades? While Wexner has never been criminally charged, the unsealed documents paint a disturbing picture. Accusers have alleged that sexual abuse happened at Wexner's properties in Ohio. He stepped down from his business empire in 2020 as scrutiny mounted. He remains the golden goose of this story, the man whose wallet funded the entire nightmare.
Alan Dershowitz. Next is Alan Dershowitz, and this is where the story shifts from finance to the legal battlefield. Dershowitz isn't just a famous Harvard law professor. He was the legal architect who secured Epstein's sweetheart deal in 2008, which allowed him to avoid federal prison the first time. But the controversy got personal. Virginia Giuffre publicly accused Dershowitz of being one of the men she was trafficked to. She claimed she was forced to have sex with him on multiple occasions. Dershowitz didn't just deny this, he went to war. He stripped down to his underwear on national TV to prove he didn't have a specific physical mark she described, and he countersued her for defamation. This legal brawl lasted for years, dividing public opinion, but in 2022 it ended with a shock. The lawsuit was dropped, and Giuffre released a statement admitting that she may have made a mistake in identifying him, citing the trauma and stress of the time. No money changed hands. For Dershowitz, it was a victory, but a costly one. Despite being legally cleared by the accuser's retraction, his reputation took a massive hit. He went from being a celebrated legal mind to a pariah in many social circles, proving that even disproven allegations in the Epstein saga leave a permanent mark. Now we move to the political heavyweights, starting with Bill Richardson. His resume was impeccable: governor of New Mexico, U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, and energy secretary under Clinton. He was a man who operated at the highest levels of global diplomacy. His name surfaced in the most damaging way possible. In unsealed depositions, Virginia Giuffre explicitly named Richardson as one of the powerful men she was directed to have sex with. This wasn't a vague rumor, it was a sworn statement in a legal deposition. The allegation threatened to destroy a lifetime of public service. Richardson's response was immediate and absolute. He called the claims completely false and even offered to testify under oath to clear his name. Unlike others who went into hiding, he remained relatively visible, relying on his long-standing reputation. Crucially, he was never charged with a crime, and no other accusers came forward to corroborate Giuffre's specific claim against him. Richardson passed away in September 2023, taking his side of the story with him. His legacy is now complicated. He's remembered as a titan of diplomacy who freed American hostages abroad, but that footnote remains, a permanent, unresolved accusation in the Epstein files that clouds an otherwise celebrated career. George Mitchell. Similar to Richardson, we have George Mitchell. If you know history, you know this name. He was the Senate Majority Leader and the peace envoy who helped broker the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland. He is a giant of American politics. But the unsealed documents brought his name into the mud. Virginia Giuffre alleged that she was forced to have sexual relations with Mitchell. The details were sparse, but the accusation itself was enough to send shockwaves through Washington. The idea that a man known for peace could be involved in such a dark ring was hard for the public to process. Mitchell's denial was fierce. He stated he had never met, spoken, or had any contact with Giuffre in his life. And honestly, the evidence trail here is thin. Unlike the flight logs for Clinton or the photos for Prince Andrew, there is no physical evidence publicly linking Mitchell to Epstein's locations. The outcome, a stalemate. No charges were ever filed. Mitchell remains a respected elder statesman, but like everyone on this list, the mere mention of his name in those documents has attached an asterisk to his biography. It serves as a reminder of the sheer reach of Giuffre's testimony, targeting the very pillars of the political establishment.
Stephen Hawking. This next one is the most bizarre entry on the list. Stephen Hawking. Yes, the world's most famous theoretical physicist is in the Epstein files. But before you jump to conclusions, you need to understand the context, because it is not what you think. Hawking's name appears in a frantic email from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell in 2015. In it, Epstein proposes offering a cash reward to anyone who could prove that Hawking did not participate in an underage orgy during a science conference in the Virgin Islands. It sounds insane, and that's because it likely was. Hawking did visit Epstein's private island in 2006 for a barbecue while attending a legitimate physics conference on a nearby island. Photos show him there in his wheelchair. But the email suggests Epstein was trying to debunk false rumors to protect his own reputation by association. There is zero evidence, no testimony, no flight logs, no accusations that Hawking engaged in any misconduct. He was physically incapacitated by ALS at the time of the visit. His inclusion in the files highlights Epstein's obsession with collecting geniuses and scientists to validate his own intellect. Hawking's reputation remains intact, but his presence on the island shows just how effectively Epstein infiltrated every layer of the elite, from Hollywood to the sciences. Marvin Minsky. If Stephen Hawking's inclusion was bizarre, Marvin Minsky's is deeply troubling. Minsky was a legend at MIT, a pioneer of artificial intelligence and a Turing Award winner. He was the kind of intellectual giant Epstein desperately wanted to be associated with. Epstein cultivated deep ties with the scientific community, funding research and hosting conferences. But with Minsky, the allegations went beyond funding. In a sworn deposition, Virginia Giuffre alleged that she was directed to have sex with Minsky at Epstein's complex in the U.S. Virgin Islands. This wasn't just a social visit. She placed him directly inside the abuse timeline. The tragedy here is the lack of closure. Minsky died in 2016, 3 years before Epstein was arrested and the floodgates opened. Because of this, he never faced these questions publicly. He was never deposed, and he never had to defend himself in a court of law. His legacy is now split in two. To the tech world, he is the father of AI, but to those following the Epstein case, he represents how the scientific elite turned a blind eye, or worse, participated in exchange for funding and flattery. It's a stark reminder that intelligence is no barrier to moral corruption. Michael Jackson. Now, let's talk about the king of pop. Michael Jackson's name appearing in the unsealed 2024 documents sent the internet into a frenzy. But this is a perfect example of why you have to read the actual testimony, not just the headlines. Jackson was mentioned by witness Johanna Soberg. She testified under oath that she met Michael Jackson at Jeffrey Epstein's Palm Beach mansion. This confirms he was there, physically present in Epstein's world. Given Jackson's own history of allegations, people expected the worst. However, the testimony actually clears him of involvement in the Epstein ring. When the lawyer asks Soberg explicitly, "Did you give him a massage? And did anything sexual happen?" she answered with a flat no. She described meeting him, seeing him, and that was it. So while his presence at the Palm Beach house is confirmed, the evidence suggests he was another celebrity passing through Epstein's social orbit rather than a participant in the trafficking operation. It's a crucial distinction. In a list full of damning accusations, Jackson's entry is surprisingly one of the few that ends with an exoneration regarding Epstein's specific crimes.
David Copperfield. Next, we have the world's most famous illusionist, David Copperfield. His entry in the Epstein files is unsettling, not because of what he did, but because of what he allegedly said. It gives us a rare glimpse into how open the secret really was. Copperfield was named in the deposition of Johanna Soberg, a key witness in the case. She testified that she met the magician at a dinner party at Epstein's Palm Beach home. She described a surreal scene where Copperfield performed magic tricks for the guests. But the conversation took a dark turn. According to Soberg, Copperfield asked her point blank if she was aware that girls were getting paid to find other girls. This is a massive revelation. It suggests that the recruitment pyramid scheme, where victims were manipulated into becoming recruiters, wasn't a hidden secret. It implies that guests at the dinner table knew exactly how the system worked. Crucially, however, Copperfield was not accused of any sexual misconduct in the documents. Soberg did not allege he abused her or anyone else. His presence highlights the culture of complicity, wealthy, famous guests enjoying the hospitality, aware of the dynamics, but saying nothing. Kevin Spacey. Then there is Kevin Spacey. Long before his own career collapsed under the weight of sexual assault allegations, Spacey was flying on the Lolita Express. His name appears in the flight logs, most notably for a 2002 trip to Africa that also included Bill Clinton and Ghislaine Maxwell. Photos from this era show Spacey and Maxwell sitting together on the throne chairs at Buckingham Palace during a tour organized by Prince Andrew. He was firmly embedded in the inner circle. The context here is important. Spacey has faced numerous independent criminal trials in the US and the UK for sexual assault, though he has been acquitted in those specific cases. However, in the Epstein files specifically, there are no accusations from the Jane Does linking him to the trafficking ring. The unsealed documents place him on the planes and at the parties, serving as another high-profile prop for Epstein's image. While he hasn't been accused of abusing Epstein's victims, his close association with Maxwell and Epstein during the peak of their operation adds another dark layer to his already controversial biography. Finally, we have supermodel Naomi Campbell. Her connection reminds us that Epstein didn't just target men, he built a social fortress involving the world's most powerful women, too. Campbell was a known associate of Ghislaine Maxwell. Her name appears in flight logs, and she was photographed at various events with the couple. In the unsealed documents, a witness placed her at a birthday party for Epstein, further confirming she was part of the regular social rotation. But Campbell has been vocal in her defense. In a 2019 interview, she admitted to knowing Epstein but stated she was sickened by his crimes. She argued that being in photos or at parties does not equate to complicity, saying, "You cannot blame me for that." And legally, she is right. There are no accusations in the files suggesting Campbell recruited girls or participated in the abuse. She appears to be part of the social camouflage, famous faces used by Epstein to make his lifestyle look glamorous and legitimate, masking the horrors happening behind closed doors.